Idam Guru Ratnam Akam Niyatayami Chudan Sogi Jonamla Chanchu Padu Dani Gyapsuchi Daki Chunyen Gibe Sunam Gi Dola Benchir Sangye Lupashon Sangye Chudan Sogi Chonamla Chanchu Padu Dani Gyapsuchi Daki Chenyen Gibe Sunam Gi Dola Benchir Sangye Lupashon Sangye Chudan Sogi Chonamla Chanchu Padu Dani Yapsuchi Daki Chinyen Gibe Sunam Gi Dola Benchir Sangye Lupashon. Okay. Come, we haven't started yet, so come. Yeah. Just a coincidence. Here's something really special. Sorry we're late. I mean, the Sanskrit class went late, and then what happened after that? The quiz happened after that. And then some of you guys were a little late. So, also, I just wanted to say before we start class, you know, we went yesterday to the prisons, the 2 prisons that Debbie Bai has been working at. Where's Debbie Bai? Oh, hi. And it was really, really fantastic. I mean, really incredible what she's done there. And, you know, I just told, it was like an Ernie Spears type of thing. Like, we were going into retreat the next day. I said, Debbie Bai started Prison Project, see you later. And that really, it was like that. And it's really, really nice. I mean, at the one prison which has 2,300 inmates, she's got a group, the group there, I don't know, 25 people, 30 people came. And then at the other place, which is a really sad place, it's like an old motel that they turned into a prison. I'm not smaller, it's got a couple hundred maybe inmates. And there's a really good group, meditation group there, and their meditation is really, really good. And they've done a lot, so some of them have done a lot of the courses. So I wanted to thank everybody who's already, like Debbie Bai was the main person who's doing it. And it's really, like if you go there, you feel all charged up, and they're just so excited, and they're so grateful, and they're so into it. And I just came home, and I was up till like 2 o'clock. I was all high, you know. And then Michael Morris here, and he's the one sending them courses. And they're very, very grateful. They're extremely grateful. And like they're begging for more courses. So I'll give you a list. And and one inmate gets out in August and wants to start a center in Phoenix to teach them. So he needs courses. And it's really nice. And then Winston was there, has been teaching there. Chikila's been doing a really nice job. Lisa, really popular. But it's just really. I think we should try to. There are 20, and so there are like 13 more prisons, 15. Completely. It's just totally different thing, and you just feel so good when you do it. So I think I'd like to see, and Christy was very brave. She came in and she did half the class with me, and they were really cool. Like, I was afraid there might be some hassle or something, but the inmates were just totally cool. And then we did debate with them, and they really liked that. So I think it's a great thing for the future here if we can do more, if we can expand the prison work in southern Arizona, and then other places. Like Alan Bear and Michael are doing free medical work in prisons where they live. Actually, Alan commutes to California to do it. But I think it'd be great to expand it in Arizona. So we should do that. Okay. But I wanted to thank especially Debbie Bai, because it was really amazing. Today we're supposed to do the third of the 7 diamond-like visions. What would that involve? So, yeah, Gana. Meaning Sangha, okay? Meaning the jewel, Sangha jewel, okay? Sangha jewel. And as you know, that mostly involves people who have seen emptiness directly, okay? And in this particular presentation, the state of mind, certain qualities of the mind of a person who has seen emptiness directly are considered the Sangha jewel. And then maybe all the people who have seen emptiness are considered the nominal Sangha jewel. So the real Sangha jewel is their state of mind and their attainments. And then the nominal Sangha jewel is the people who have seen emptiness directly. And then we had another presentation from the Abhisamankara in the second course, I think it is, that said the real Sangha was people who have seen emptiness directly, and the nominal Sangha is people who wear robes. Okay, I think, so now you're seeing a deeper presentation. We're just going deeper and deeper. That's the idea of an in-depth course, right? And I started out making the reading like 24 hours ago, and I went through it and I said, there's 8 qualities that they have, very similar to the Buddha jewel and the Dharma jewel that we went through. And the 8 qualities weren't explained very well anywhere, and even Gyaltsab Je doesn't explain them much. So I kind of got tired of trying to squeeze a reading out of that. And there's another really famous quotation that we did all the time in the monastery about the jewel of the Sangha from UttaraTantra, from this text. It comes pretty much further down in the first chapter. So, but it is talking about the Sangha jewel, and to me it's one of the most exciting quotations in the whole UttaraTantra. And there's a big reading you could design around that, because everybody since then has debated this quotation. Everybody. So we'll get from 350 AD up to about 1700s or 1800s, we'll get a whole string of debates. So I thought what you might find fun was what I mentioned previously, that sometimes it's really useful to just follow the debates back into history, in the monasteries, the monastic textbooks. So, like the big 3 monasteries, it's called Densasum. Say Densasum. 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 Densa means it's asana, meaning seat of higher learning. And Sum means the 3 biggies, and that's Sera, Ganden, and Debun. And their textbook writers in the last 500 years have struggled with this quotation that I'm going to write for you from the UttaraTantra. And I thought it would just be fun to see how they struggled through the centuries. So I think I have about 10 different textbook writers in the reading. And, all the great ones from all the great monasteries. And then I thought I'd write the whole quotation up here first, because it's so famous, and I urge you to memorize it, okay? It's on your homework, it's on your quiz. Okay? Let's see here, it disappeared. Yeah. And what's kind of interesting to me is I memorized it a certain way in the debate ground, and then when I was searching for it in the database, I couldn't find it in Saramay textbooks, And then I started to look for pieces of it, and then I realized that over the centuries the quotation has evolved. And this from even Holy Lama Ken Rinpoche, or he'll be in a class, he'll have a quotation that in the back of his mind that he didn't debate for 47 years, you know? And then he'll look through like 14 scriptures and he'll say, oh, forget it, it's something like this, you know? And then somebody writes that down in his book, and then other people copy it out of Ken Rinpoche's book, and then it becomes mushed around. So you'll see it in the reading. This quotation has been inverted in different ways, you know? Which makes me want to say that you guys have to be careful, okay? As you record these teachings. Like John Stillwell wrote me an email. He said, that's cool that you guys are doing in-depth sutra courses in Arizona. Who's gonna, what do you call it? How do you say it? Archive them. Yeah, who's gonna archive them, you know? I mean, let's get that straight, you know, because we still have 1,000 tapes in Godstow that we haven't archived yet, you know. And so he was very concerned that who's going to be doing the archiving, you know, and who's going to be sending out those courses, and who's going to make sure that the content is not, the quotations aren't all messed up in 300 years. You see what I mean? So you'll see in the readings how the quotation evolved over the 300 years, you know, and it's very, over 1,600 years. Anyway, here it is. And Elila, I finished the homework about 3 minutes ago, and I don't know if there's any way you could print it out by, or afterwards, since people are all staying for the stuffing party. Is there a stuffing party? Thank you. Okay. And there's a beautiful Sanskrit equivalent, and you'll have it in your next Sanskrit class, which is early August, I guess. Okay? And it's really beautiful. If you get a chance, you should do the Sanskrit of this verse especially. Ready? Not quite, but anyway. Pakpe, Chidang, Nawadang, Gawe, Dunya, Tsene, Pang. Pakpe means Winston, huh? Yeah, Aryas, but Pakpe, by Aryas, okay? Aryas, Iyer in Sanskrit, Aryaya. Chiwa, number 4 in the prison yesterday. Dead. Yeah, you might notice some other ones here. And Nawa. Keganachi, we had it yesterday. Nawa. Sickness, okay? Sickness. You've had ne in the last homework, ne, which means sickness also. So you put a da on it, it means sickness also, okay? Death, sickness, and dang, gawa, old age, aging. Okay, there's this big debate in the monastery. If you say old age, you get in trouble. Oh, so babies don't have gawa dungyal? So babies don't have the suffering of aging? And then you get this big thing. Gawa dungyal, suffering. Seine means tsawane. It's the same thing, tsawane. From the root. Seine means from the root. Bang means they have eliminated it. Eliminated, got rid of it. Why didn't he say tsawane, Christy?
He's trying to rhyme.
Yeah, he'd blow his rhyme, he'd blow his meter. He'd have an extra beat in there, okay? Hear it. Pape chidan nawadang. Gawe dungyal tsawane bang. It would ruin the meter, you know? So he threw in se, which is pretty rare, but it means the same thing. It's mulad, from the root, okay? Mulam. Anyway, so what this is saying is that anybody who has seen emptiness directly, has eliminated death, the sufferings of death, illness, and old age. Okay? Has eliminated. So here we go. Yeah. Chansen Tonglamba Church and Tonglamba Melamba Church and let's Elila, okay? Take a person who just achieved the first part of the path of seeing. They're in the direct perception of emptiness, called the uninterrupted level, right? The uninterrupted path. Chiwa dan nawa dan gawa. Death, sickness, and old age. Sene bawata. So they've gotten rid of it, right?
Yes.
So, chiwa mata. So they're not going to die, right?
Not necessarily.
So, tsene mabamata. So they haven't eliminated it from its root. They've just eliminated. They're just some cases they've eliminated it.
Pour the poison on the root, then the leaves take a while to die.
So chiwa mabamata. So they haven't eliminated death, then it's still going to die. So, chiwa tsawane panggang. Even though this is Geshe Tuturinchi, right? Chiwa tsawane panggang. Chiwa mapata. So even though they've eliminated death from its root, they haven't eliminated death, right?
Not immediately, but eventually.
I think so.
Yes,
Huh?
They have.
Yeah, duh. I don't know, we'll see. Okay? It's a very big debate, it's a huge debate, okay? Okay, anyway, we'll go on. Those are the four sufferings, right? We had them in the prison yesterday. Keganachi. Say keganachi. 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 You know, people pick on me for many things, but one of the smaller things they pick on me is why do you keep bringing out this death thing, you know? I mean, Buddhism is just to learn to be relaxed. Buddhism is learn to meditate. Buddhism is learn to watch your breath, you know? Buddhism is learn to be friendly, you know? Buddhism is blah, blah, blah. And I keep saying, no, the whole thing is about dying. The whole thing is about changing your body into an angel's body, you know? The whole thing is that. And here's another verse to support me. Now, it's just an accident that it came up. But, you know, that's what Buddhism's all about. I just can't stand all the other ones. I mean, in certain places, on certain occasions, to certain groups, maybe you would talk about getting calm. But I was sitting in the prison yesterday, and there's 30 like hardcore cons. We're in the high secure, max security one, and they're staring at me, and I got to say something funny, fast, and interesting, you know, and I know they're uptight all the time, and I know they want to hear about meditation, but I just went straight to death, you know. I just can't do anything else. I think deep down inside everyone's interested in that, actually. You know, being calm, you'll get calm if you take care of your death, right? I think so. So, and they responded to that. I think they really responded to that, because they knew you're just cutting through the BS, you know? You go straight to what matters, okay? So, Keigan Nachi, birth, rebirth, aging, illness, and death. But there's a problem here so far. What's that? Something missing. Kye was missing. He didn't mention rebirth. Okay? But that's only half the verse, so give him a chance. Oh, don't do this thing to me. I think everybody in the country should send a bill to Bill Gates for the time they waste on trying to get Windows to work. And then all the money could be redistributed from where it came from originally. But anyway. Leida Nyomo Wankike. Say lay down. Nyomo. Wanki ke. Tela. Teme. Cheer. Deme. Okay. Lay down Nyomo. Two big problems in life. What are they? Karma and mental afflictions. Karma and bad emotions, bad thoughts. Okay? Lay down Nyomo. Wangi means by the power of karma and mental afflictions. Ke. That's how people get born. That's why people are reborn, okay?
You say that one more time, please.
Yeah, Wangi means through the power of karma and mental afflictions, people are born. By the way, I'm going to read you the whole verse in English, because it's on your homework. I mean, yeah. So I'll give you the translation in a minute, okay? De la, de me, don't have it. And so they don't have it. Okay? They don't have it, and so they don't have it. De la, de me, cheer, de me. Okay? Meaning what? Who wants to take a shot? They don't have it, so they don't have it.
Because they don't have karma. Nyomo, they don't have.
Who's they?
Papa.
Yeah, Aryas don't have karma and mental afflictions, so they don't have K, birth. Okay, so they don't have birth. Papa la kyo meata. Let me give you the translation first, okay? Because this is going to take us on to another subject. You know, this is just a translation thing. I like to avoid the word Arya in most translations because of the connotations with Hitler and all that. So, and the new Aryan things and all that. Although it has nothing to do with Arya, right? But, so I call them realized beings as opposed to enlightened beings. They've realized emptiness, but they're not enlightened yet, okay? So it says, realized beings have eliminated death. That's the first line. The second line reads, and sickness and aging from the root. Birth comes by the power of deeds. Next line, and mental afflictions, dash. Last line, they have none and so have none. I got some at the bottom of my bag. Oh, there you go. Okay. Back to our debate. Papa la chiamata. So I guess people who see emptiness directly don't have birth, right? Because the great, kind, benevolent lamas of our lineage have constantly repeated the fact that they don't have it because they don't have them. How could anybody contradict Holy Scripture, wonderful, magnificent Holy Scripture like you do? That's how Sarah May says that. That's how Sarah May says that when you contradict a scripture. And then every different densa, each different major monastery has their own way. So Ganden will go, you know. So when we debate them, we go, oh, you know. And then they go, oh, you know. Huh? She's a major. Maitreya said that. It just said, that's not what it says. Well, show me where it says something else. It says they don't have it because they don't have them.
Yes, the suffering of birth.
Oh, birth and the suffering birth are different.
Duh.
So you can have to take a rebirth and not suffer.
Duh.
So Papa la duk den meata. So Aryas don't have the truth of suffering. Aryas aren't the truth of suffering.
Not too early.
Huh?
Not too early.
So they don't have the truth of suffering. So they don't have impurities that are related to karma and kleshas.
They still have impurity.
So they have the truth of suffering. They are the truth of suffering. They still are the truth of suffering. Can you be the truth of suffering and not be samsara? Are Aryas in samsara? So they're in samsara but they're not suffering? By the way, I'm not just picking on you. This is the whole crux of the whole 1,000 years of debate. And it's just exactly what just came up. You know, it's like, are they suffering or aren't they? Are they the truth of suffering or not? Much less do they have the truth of suffering. Do they take rebirth or not? What makes them take rebirth? Okay? And now I'll tell you a verse, the next verse from Maitreya. It says, Jishin yanda tongwei chir. Because they have seen the way things are so well, okay, meaning emptiness, right? Keso namlen dekyo kyang, they are beyond birth and all those other problems. But, kyang, okay? Ningje dagni kyewa dang, chidang ga dang nawartun, but still they pretend, or they just show. In Tibetan it's dun, right? They just pretend because they are the embodiment of compassion to take birth, to die, to get old, and to get sick. Sound good? So bodhisattvas only take birth out of, we call it Ningje Dan Munlam. Okay, you should know that. Ningje Dan Munlam. Ningje, there's a new Munlam here, right? So it's very famous. Just out of compassion, karuna, and Munlam. Their prayers may I take birth in some crappy place to take care of people there, Only because of those do Aryas take rebirth. Right, Michael?
Yes.
So they don't have so they don't take rebirth through mental afflictions, right?
Bodhisattvas, no.
Bodhisattva Aryas.
They wouldn't take rebirth through mental affliction.
So everybody who ever achieves the first Bodhisattva level achieves the 8th one automatically.
No, not automatically.
Because it's the 8th one where you lose your last mental affliction. So somewhere between 1 and 8, you still got to work, Like usually, how many lifetimes?
7.
Typically 7.
As many as 16, depending on your practice.
I don't know about that, but anyway. That's a different book. Okay. That's about people who keep their tantric vows or not. That's another subject. Okay. That's a very beautiful thing about 16 lives, if you keep your vows. Okay. But I want to introduce you to the idea of and the reading is really nice, and I'll try to work on it on the planes and stuff and email it after my vacation to LA Law or somebody. Say Sipa, Len, Dumbawa. Sipa, Len, Dumbawa. I've often mentioned a Sipa, Len, Dumbawa, like in the Diamond Cutter class. A person who has seen emptiness typically they might very typically perceive directly that they have 7 lifetimes to go to achieve enlightenment. 7 lifetimes as a human in the desire realm, okay? So this is one kind of stream enter. And I thought, you can experience these things yourself directly. It's like we were trying to do a lot of channel practices during the 3-year retreat. And what we found out is that you can get 3 years of channel practices in half an hour from somebody. You see what I mean? Because the story is all sitting and working on it. Describing it to you can take a week or something. You can go study it with some Lama for about a week, and you can get the entire transmission of Jetson Kappa's presentations on the channels and chakras or something like that. But then to really do it takes like 3 years of just daily, all-day practice, basically. Sipa Len Dumbawa is almost the same idea. I've often mentioned it to you in terms of a direct experience of emptiness. Like if you see emptiness directly, you will, in the following hours after that, directly perceive that you will become enlightened within 7 lifetimes. Okay? At least. At most. Sorry. Okay? But I thought you might like to see the scriptural backup for that if anybody ever asks you. Like it's also helpful to have, books you can pull out and say, well, this is where it talks about that, about the 7 lifetimes thing. So it's possible you could even have the experience yourself and then go back later to the books and find it. And then write a reading about it for somebody like that. You know what I mean? So I thought it's very helpful to have it in writing. You say, how did you learn about the 7 lifetime thing? And you say, well, I heard it in a class from somebody, They say, well, where's the proof for that in the scripture? And then it's useful, I think, to be able to go to scriptures and say. So I'm going to do the scriptural presentation as opposed to the diamond cutter type of presentation, okay? And that in itself is a little interesting how it's evolved over the years and maybe got a little confused and since the time that it was first spoken about. It's found in Abhidharma literature, in the Abhidharma Kosha and other texts. And it's used in the description of Gyun Shukpas, which is what? Stream enters, meaning people who have just seen emptiness directly. Okay? And there are many kinds of stream enters. Someday we can go through that chapter in the Abhidharma Kosha. But this one is called a Sipa Len Dumbawa. Sipa means like Sipe Korlo Sipa, which is, do you know Sipe Korlo? Yeah, Wheel of Life. This means lives. Lives. Sipa, in this case, means lives. Lives to take. Still that many lives to take. Len without the dengbu, okay? Be careful. Means times. How many times? And then din means 7. And then the bawa makes it an ER. I like to call him a 7-timer. Okay? 7-timer. And it's pretty exciting. I mean, if you go reading scriptures that say it's 49 billion years until Maitreya gets here, which is what liberation in the palm of your hand says. But then you know that it's possible to see emptiness directly yourself. And then within 7 lifetimes, of average lifetime now is like 70 years, so that's 500 years. Like Maitreya could happen in 500 years. Or less if you practice Tantra, and we're going to see that. We're going to see some things from Jetsun Kappa. But the Sipalandao Dumbawa thing for me is very exciting because it means you will be the next Maitreya if you just work hard on the courses, and then your meditation, and then your Dzogchen practices and your retreats. You know, I put in the reading the technical definition of a 7-lifetimer, and it just basically says they will take 7 more lifetimes in the desire realm, in the same type, meaning they will continue to be humans of high. They have good intellect. They have good tunkyens. Lots of people taking care of them. Like they have enough money. They have enough food. Everything is easy for them, and they continually meet great teachers, even from the time they're very young. Rikchengi, Pangjarim Gipa. Pangjarim Gipa means a stream mentor who abandons all their negativities in a gradual way. Gyunshuk means a stream mentor. Gyunju Sipa Lendum Bawe Tseni is the definition of a 7-timer. Okay, it's not very complicated. Basically, they're just going to come back 7 more times, or less if they practice Tantra. Which means, I'm gonna read you now. I'm just going to start the debate text. Okay, I'm just going to go through some debates with you, and I haven't translated them yet, so we'll just go as we go. That's okay. Oops. And so you just listen. You won't have a reading, so you just have to listen to the debates carefully, okay? And then probably later you have to compare notes with each other. You can get the reading, I think, in about 3 weeks maybe, okay? It's finished in Tibetan, but it's not finished in English. And we'll just go the usual way. And just listen. This is from, I put the best monastic textbook first, so it's from Sarame, Ketiv Dembadage, I think 1493, 1568, but I have it in the reading, so don't worry about it. Someone can be the truth of suffering and not possess the demon of the heaps, okay? The demon of heaps. There are 4 demons in Buddhism that you destroy as you become enlightened. The demon of the heaps means the body and mind that you were forced to take on when you came into this life. Dirty, mortal, troublesome body and mind, okay? Then there's the demon of the mental afflictions, which doesn't need any explanation for anyone who's done any lay rooms or anything, or who keeps a book. Then there's the demon of death, death itself. And then there's a demon called the child of the deity named Garab Wangchuk. And that just means, it's a fancy way of saying that in the old days, when you were getting close to getting enlightened, somebody would show up and try to take you off track. You know, like just before the end, or as you get more advanced, you'll bump into some new friend who, and that's some kind of a demon influence, who will try to convince you that what you're doing is not very meaningful, or they'll try to get you sidetracked. And that's just a common thing when you're getting towards the end. They'll try to put doubts in your mind. The more powerful, the more beautiful, the more fantastic things are happening, the more the Plai Wang Badu gets into action and tries to plant doubts, plant problems, get people distracted from the real issues like that, okay? Like if you spent 1,000 days in a yurt during retreat, and then it's, and you'd have the big rejoicing afterwards, but then you get distracted by some other thing. Then that would be like Lai Wang Badu, Okay. So he says, you can have the suffering of, the truth of suffering. You can be the truth of suffering and not possess the demon of the heaps. You can be the truth of suffering and not possess the demon of the heaps. Okay? Can you be a person and be the truth of suffering?
Is the truth of suffering an unchanging thing? It's a fact, right?
What? Truth of suffering, fact, Yamata. You tell me truth of suffering is a fact?
Yeah.
I think I got up here last class and said what? It's a fact in the sense of the things which are that thing. It's not a truth as like a statement or a, you see what I mean? It's the reality of those things. So can a person be the truth of suffering? Yeah. All sentients, all suffering sentient beings are the truth of suffering. It's not like they have the truth of suffering or they believe in the truth of suffering or they haven't recognized the truth of suffering. They are the truth of suffering, okay? But can you be the truth of suffering and not have the demon of the heaps? And he says, Gyunshuk Sipalen Dubawa. Which means what? Gyunshuk? Stream enterer who's got 7 lives to go. Okay? Dukten Yin Kyang. What? Yin.
Suffering.
They are the truth of suffering. But, Kyang means but, okay? Pumbadu Mayin. Pumbadu Mayin. They are not the demon of the heaps. Chitte. Gendin Konjo Yimbecher. Gendin Konjo Yimbecher. What? They are the Sangha jewel. They are the Sangha jewel. So what the monastic textbooks do, they are pedagogical. They are debate. They are dialectic. They don't sit there and tell you, now look, there's like 3 kinds of stream enterers, and in the 3rd one, he has the truth of suffering. He is the truth of suffering, but he doesn't have the demon of the heaps because he's the Sangha jewel. They just present an argument between 2 people and then they go on. And then you have to suck out, you have to withdraw the information from it. So now you learn something, which is what? You learned a bunch of stuff. You learned something about Sipa Lendumbawas. You learned that these 7-time guys are what?
The truth of suffering.
They are the truth of suffering. They don't possess the demon of the heaps because they are Sangha jewel. So then you can derive this thing that anybody who gets to be Sangha jewel doesn't have the demon of the heaps, right? So anybody who's a Sangha jewel doesn't have a mortal body, right?
No. They do have a mortal body.
Yeah, they do have a mortal body, right?
Right.
So they have the demon of the heaps, right?
No.
Yeah. Now you get tricky, because now we're starting to get questions. We're starting to get doubts. What are you talking? Then what's the demon of the heaps if it's not a mortal body?
The mortal body of one
Thinking
who
that they're
has
self-existent.
It might be. Might be. The nice thing about the debate books, they don't tell you.
the mortal body of one who is in the stream enterer.
Yeah, you can say that, but they're still going to die. That body's still going to, or maybe it turns into light at a certain point. Maybe there's a difference that way. Maybe there's some kind of difference that way, you see? Maybe they're on the conveyor belt to become a body of light, so they don't count as having the demon of the heaps body, okay? Maybe that, okay? I propose. Let's see. He throws in another comment, by the way, and I've just chopped them out. You don't get the whole context, but for that you have to debate a lot. He says, by the way, it's also not true that if you do have the demon of the heaps, you'd want to get rid of it. That it's a bangja, heya. Was it? Heya, no, it's the heya part, praheya. It's not true that it's a praheya. Bangja. Okay? Wow, sure? You're telling me that if you got the demon of the heaps, is infesting you, it's not something you want to get rid of?
Apparently not.
Don't say apparently not. You could probably find somebody from another monastery that said the opposite. Why not? Why do you think he said that?
Because it doesn't have to be suffering things. It can be because you can body it. Because you can
No,
use it.
we're talking about Nirlengi Pumbo. Nirlengi Pumbo means the ones that were forced on you when you were born. Okay, Nirlengi Pumbo. But he says, Delnjerki chu chob gedan denbe mi lu. A human body which is possessed of the 18 Delnjor, which is what? Spiritual leaders and fortunes from the Lam Rim. Come on, this is a precious thing. It's a wonderful thing. You know, you wouldn't want to, for example, commit suicide. Okay, so it's not something to be eliminated, right?
So, okay. You framed it in the form of double negative, right? It's not true that the streamliners
Yeah.
do not want to get rid of.
Well, no, it's not true that even if your being is in the clutches of the demon of the heaps, that it's something you'd want to get rid of necessarily.
That's some
Right.
benefit others with it.
So you're going to buy that? Do you buy that? It's not something to get rid of?
Are we allowed to do Tantra into it?
Say again?
Is this a sutra debate or a Tantra debate?
We're coming to the Tantra later. We're coming to the Tantra. But let's stick to Sutra. So, suffering heaps are not something to be abandoned. Because they have the 18 leisures and fortunes from the beautiful Lam Rim books.
But it's also,
That's what he's saying. That's what the author of our textbooks just said. Right?
Not yet. The abandonment until you can suffer.
Yeah. There's this thing where you don't get rid of the boat till you get over the ocean, you know. Then you must get rid of the boat. Okay?
Is
All
there a
right.
contradiction entailed? Because
Yeah.
the stream
Yeah.
enters do not want to get rid of the demon of fortunes because they're stream enters, they don't possess them in the first place.
That's true too. Okay, anyway, here we go. Then he says a little bit, you want some detail? You want to sit here for hours? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. And by the way, it's not even true that if something is the demon of the mental afflictions, it's a mental affliction, he says. Just in case you were wondering. You got an idea? We need a chichen, right? We need a chichen. We need that example which proves the exception. I'll say it again. He said, by the way, that thing about the demon of the mental afflictions, something can be the demon of the mental afflictions and not be a mental affliction. And not be, he throws in an adjective that he hopes you don't notice. A manifest mental affliction.
So it could be latent. It can be
Yeah,
it's not-
could be a latent mental affliction, but he goes further. He says you could be in a way you could be mixed up with mental afflictions and not be mental. Like he's really pushing the envelope.
Anything caused by mental affliction.
That's in one way, but what would be a mental affliction demon but not be mental? Work on that. By the way, I mean, Rinpoche brought us up on these. I mean, we read these. We didn't do the ACI courses, you know. We only read these. So, you know, for anybody who was there for 30 years ago, it's easy. Nyamongi Saban, say Saban. The Bakchak.
Sudden.
Bakchak. Nyamongi Bakchak. Yeah? So you're telling me Bakchak's not mental?
Not manifest.
Yeah. Well, A, it's not manifest, but B, it's not mental at all anyway. It's an energy. It's a potential. You see, if you split the whole world into mental, physical, and stuff in between, where does it go? It goes in between. It goes in the Demenduchis, okay? It's a power. It's a potential. It's an energy. It's not mental. It's not cognizant. It doesn't perceive anything, you see? It's just an event waiting to happen in a way. Okay? That's a bakchak. So bakchaks stay in your
Mental continuum.
mind, but they're not
Activated. But
they're not mind. They stay in your mind, but they're not the mind.
So they're seeds without causes and conditions for ripening.
Whoa! I don't know about that. We'll debate that later. Then he goes into this long story about how you don't have to be the son of the deity, the child of the deity, mental affliction, which just means someone who distracts you. You don't have to be a child of a deity, but you knew that. Okay. Okay, here's another debate. Let's talk about a bodhisattva on the third level. Can you think of one? Aryasanga, according to the scripture, you know, by the end of his life. Okay. Did he get rid of the rough form? of the demon of the heaps. And then he says, because he destroyed heaps which are impure and which come from karma and kleshas. We can agree to that so far, right? I think. Okay, he got rid of the demon of the heaps because he's gotten rid of any heaps that are a product of karma and kleshas, karmas and mental afflictions. Good? Buy it? He's being careful, he's smart. Let's buy it. Let's see where he goes from there. Taktute, you have to agree to my reason that he has gotten rid of heaps that are caused by karma and mental afflictions because because a bodhisattva who's on the Mahayana path of seeing, in the moments after seeing emptiness directly, okay, we call it being in the meditation, and then when you get up and start walking around like an hour later, then we call it namdro. Namdro means at that point when you start to, you're already free of all the problems that seeing emptiness directly eliminates. So you're in a state of liberation in a sense, okay? Because bodhisattvas who have just seen emptiness directly are walking around in the 24 hours after that, right? They have gotten rid of rebirth and death, which are created by karma and mental afflictions, because the UttaraTantra says, and every single debate I have in here has this same quotation. Okay? I wanted you to see how 10 different people in the last 2,000 years, 1,700 years, have used the same quotation to prove what they want to prove. Okay? And it's not bad. I mean, it gives us insight into the meaning of the quotation. Okay? And then he just quotes that line, those lines. And he says, by the way, moreover, if you're a person who has just reached the first bodhisattva level, because you just got bodhicitta and you just saw emptiness directly, I say you must have gotten rid of the... Are you telling me that they have gotten rid of heaps which are created by karma and kleshas? Are you telling me that from that quotation? I mean, our guy, us, come up to the other guy and say, are you telling me that? The guy already just agreed to our quotation. So he said, do you think the quotation proves what we were trying to prove? Say yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Dake, duna, dake means, well, you agreed, right? Duna, chansem jorlam be, tekchengi tonlam, tobma tape, say, chansem tonlam be gula, lenyungi, blah, 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 blah. Okay, anyway. Let's talk about a person who's on the path of preparation, which happens just before what? Seeing emptiness directly, okay, path of preparation. They're on the Mahayana path of preparation, and they've just achieved the path of seeing, right? Just achieved the path of seeing. Are you saying they don't have heaps which are a product of karma and kleshas?
Yeah.
Whoa. You can't agree. Because the guy who was on the path of preparation had a body which was created by karma and kleshas. And, gangshik, right? Gangshik means, and, because they are the same, the bodily continuum. I mean, 10 minutes later he's an Arya. So like 10 minutes before he's got a body that was produced by karma and kleshas. Are you saying that 10 minutes later he has a different body? Then he just leaves you like that, okay? And you have to think about it. And that's what they do, and Rinpoche would do that too, we'd say, but what's the punchline, Rinpoche? And he'd say, you go cook it. You go think about it, One nice thing about the monastic textbooks is sometimes they'll just leave you hanging. They won't give you like Americans, people in Rinpoche's classes just get so frustrated. They want, what's the end? What's the end? Is there a denouement? No. You got to figure it out. Okay, so there you go. You got stuck with that one. But what did you learn from that last statement? He said, Luten Chigi Meichir. They have one and the same bodily stream, continuum. What do you learn from that? What might be an implication of that? Is that certain parts of the path of preparation happen like within half an hour of seeing emptiness directly. You know what I mean? Like Jolam Chichok. You know, highest part of the path of preparation. I mean, what he's arguing is that, come on, they're so close. What he's saying, what he's implying is like they're half hour apart, they're 15 minutes apart. You're telling me it's a different kind of body he's got now? But what you learn from that argument, even if you didn't have anybody to tell you that, is that the direct perception of emptiness happens like within half an hour of the highest part of the path of preparation. Okay? Because it's such a big deal that the bodies are the same in that half hour. Okay? All right. We'll do one more and take a break. Dukden yina korin bekab. Dukden yina korin bekab. Ani chikina. Dukden. Dungyal demba yina. Korwa yimbe chap.
You're saying truth of suffering.
If something is the truth of suffering, yina, korwa yimbe chap.
It must be samsara?
Yeah. Whoa, cook that one. If something is the truth of suffering, it must be samsara.
We aren't saying that someone who's seen emptiness directly has achieved nirvana.
Are we saying that?
We can't be saying that.
No, we can't, right? Because what?
Because they haven't permanently ceased all their mental affliction.
Right. That's a long ways away. That's 490 years away or something, right? At least, you know. Well, at most, maybe. But anyway, Dukden yina korin bekyap. What do you guys say? This is the kachikma. Kachikma means what? One mouth, which always means the other guy, the guy who's saying the wrong thing. I mean, luckily they identify who's saying the first thing, right? So if you're like this 13-year-old kid in the monastery, you know it's wrong already, but you just got to figure out why. He says, the guy who's always wrong says, if something is the truth of suffering, it must be samsara. Any biters? Brian? All you have to do is find a mituncho. You have to find an example that doesn't fit that.
An emanation appearing to a samsaric being.
Okay, an emanation appearing to samsaric being. Is it dunya demba? Is it truth of suffering?
No.
We need something which is the truth of suffering, but is not samsara.
Well, if it's appearing to that being, then it would have to be in samsara.
For whom?
Yeah, right.
But
who's the truth of suffering?
Appearing,
The guy seeing the emanation is the truth of suffering then.
the Buddha, from the Buddha's point of view, the emanating Buddha is seeing themselves in samsara.
In samsara, but they're not the truth of suffering.
But then they would have to be the truth of suffering if that was correct.
Oh no, he said the opposite. If it's the truth of suffering, it has to be samsara. Which basically, if anything is screwed up, it has to be the truth. It has to be samsara.
From whose side, again?
Well, let's go on. Madapi nuki jikden chuchen. Madapi nuki jikden chuchen. Let's consider the impure vessel of the world. This world that we live in. Okay? That's his counterexample. Okay, you gave the example of a deity emanating as a normal being. He gives the example of the world we live in. The suffering world we live in. So what's the guy going to come back with now? The opponent. He's going to say, are you telling me it's the truth of suffering?
Yeah.
Are you telling me it's not samsara? Our guy, our boy, came and said, take the world, suffering world, impure world. Which means he thinks it's what? Truth of suffering, but not samsara. Whoa, let's keep going. Korayamata. I guess it's samsara, right? And the guy says, why did you say that? It's the truth of suffering. Okay? I like this one. I remember this one. I busted my head on this in Sarah. Because the guy says, we say, it has to be the truth of suffering because Kundu, Samuchaya, I don't know which one, says, Dunyaki Demba Kangshe, now what is the truth of suffering? Semchen Kyo Dan Kiwi Neki Kyang Rikpa Jao. Either one, suffering sentient beings or the world they live in. Okay? So the impure world around us has to be the truth of suffering because that book said so. That ancient Indian book said so. Okay? Then the guy says, okay, I'll go along with it. This world is samsara. He says, do not koro mayim batha. When you go up, what's it mean? Koro mayim batha?
So you're telling me it's not?
No, this is the non-sarcastic one. When you go down, koro mayim batha. You telling me it's not korwa? Telling me it's not samsara? But when you go up, koro mayim batha means what? No, it's not suffering. No, it's not samsara. Okay? How is the tone of your voice indicated in the scripture? Like when you do chanting and they have chanting notation, there are these beautiful wavy things. They look like waves. They go, and they draw this line like that, you know. But there's no line like that here. How do you know his voice is going up?
Just the context.
You just have to figure it out from the context. Sorry. No. If what he says is true from what you figure out later, he must have gone up. Okay? Sorry. Because it ain't korwa, it's the place where you korwa. Due to karma and kleshas. Okay? It ain't korwa, it's the place where you korwa. It's not the cycle, it's the place where you circle. Okay? I don't know, let's see where he's going to go from there. By the way, you don't have to buy them right away, you have to question them. That's why they write them as debates. And sometimes they'll wrap it up wrong and see if you can catch them. Okay? Then you have to be really careful. What's that? Seven timer. Churchen means, let's talk about a seven timer. Take a seven timer, okay? We can do all this in Tibetan when we start the university and we'll be debating. I'm thinking English sounds good in Tibetan. We'll debate. Different groups, of course. Or maybe all the same. Anyway. Korwa imbata. Are you telling me he's...
In samsara.
No, he said korwa yin.
Korwa.
Are you telling me he is samsara? Right? Why? If I'm the debater, you're the good guy, I'm the bad guy. You said to me, Kora Yibata, you telling me a seven timer is samsara? I said, teacher, why'd you say that?
Because you just said that truth of suffering, if it's the truth of suffering,
right.
It must be samsara, and we
right.
said
that the Lendambawa is the truth of suffering. He is the truth of suffering. Okay, so I'll go over it again. You opponent said that if something is the truth of suffering, it has to be samsara. So let's take that seven timer. Are you telling me he's samsara? Why'd you say that? I didn't say that. But he's the truth of suffering, isn't he? That's how far we are right now. The guy's got to say what?
Yes.
Yeah, he's the truth of suffering. Of course he's the truth of suffering. Le nyun ki wang ki korwe nesu rang wang me par kyawa lembe semjen yimbe. Here's a tough one. Because he is a sentient being who is taking birth in the place called samsara helplessly due to his or her karma and kleshas. That okay? Well, I don't know. I don't know. We got problems here. We got inconsistencies between the texts. Now this guy's saying he has to be the truth of suffering because he's going to take more births in samsara due to the power of his karma and kleshas. Okay? And this is a good textbook writer. Who is this? Let me just check. Oh, this is ours. Okay? This is Sarah May. Okay? Now don't forget that he said that. Keep that, Semla Jakchu, keep that note in mind, okay? He said this guy helplessly has to take birth through karma and kleshas. We just heard Maitreya saying what? He takes place through what? Two things. Munlam. Oh.
Compassion and prayer.
Yeah. Nyingje and Munlam. Compassion and prayer. Prayer, may may I be born in a land full of, like they call Lalo Lumba, means barbarian land, like America. Okay? Dharmically. Then he says, Duna. Oh, then the other guy breaks down. He says, okay, he's samsara. I said he had to be, right? Because he's the truth of suffering. He is samsara. Now he's not samsara, he's korwa po. Which means what?
Like samsaric being.
Yeah, he's the one who's in samsara. He's the samsara-er. Samsarist? Okay? He's not samsara. He's not samsara. So far, what do you got? The world can't be samsara because it's what? It's the place where you samsara. The guy who's in samsara can't be samsara. He's a samsara-er. So what's samsara? His last closing statement, okay? And then we'll take a break. Ngachi korwa mayembe dupche nipo de tete. My last two proofs were fine, even though a little weird. Kanki korna. When you talk about why somebody's cycling, it's because of karma and kleshas. If you talk about who's cycling, it's a sentient being who's cycling due to their karma and kleshas. If you talk about where they're cycling, or here's a very important thing, where they're cycling or what they're chained to. Okay, that's nice. If you're talking about where they're cycling or what they're chained to, and that's going to be useful later, okay? It's nirlangi pumbo. It's your body and your mind that you took on when you were born. That's where they're chained to. Ne kangdukona, and where is all this cycling taking place? In the world, the impure world. Kar she jugupe. He says she jugupe. If you're going to be precise, you've got to talk about it that way. But none of these is samsara, is it? The place, the person, okay, the thing they're chained to, that none of that is samsara. What is samsara then? He doesn't tell you. He closes it like that. He leaves it. He says, can't you guys distinguish between subjects and objects? Don't you have the korsum correct? Tessie loves that, children. She loves korsum. What are korsum?
3 spheres.
3 spheres, meaning the person who's cycling in samsara.
The person who's cycling let's see, how would we do that? The person who's cycling in samsara.
Yeah.
The cycling itself.
Yeah.
And what it produces.
Or the place where they're cycling. Okay? So which one is samsara? Which one is the real cycle? Just get it straight. Get it straight. People think, they say, oh, New York is samsara. People say, I have to go on vacation because I don't like samsara, People say that. People say, I got cancer. My cancer is samsara. What is samsara? It's the condition. Okay? Later, Nyamongi Wangi, Korwana Korwe, Cha. Cha means the condition. The fact of it is samsara. Okay? It's very subtle, and you got to cook it. You got to cook it. The implication is we are not living in samsara. And it's not that we are samsara. It's that the condition of being here is samsara. What's the tantric implication?
It's a pure land.
No, you could change it. You could change it. The place ain't samsara. You're not samsara. It's the condition of being here that's samsara. Okay? It's the condition of having to be here through mental afflictions and karma that's samsara. But in and of itself, this isn't samsara. And you're not samsaric being. The fact that you're still here is samsara. That's very tantric, okay? You got to cook that. Like he's not writing a tantric book, but he threw that in. Okay? Okay. I'd like to go on. I mean, I'm not really doing the whole ACI courses with you this way, although they were all based on these scriptures. But you start to get a feel that if you were in a debate ground, and if you debated this stuff for an hour, then you'd know this stuff backwards and forwards. You go to Tucson, teach somebody at the Muse was it Arts Center or something like that? I hate to call it the YMCA, it sounds cheap, but anyway, it's pretty cheap. But anyway, you really know your stuff by the end. You really know your stuff. You really, really grasp it, you know. And there are modern scholars who say all those monastic textbooks, they're just silly. And they're just splitting hairs, you know. But really, if you have kelwa, if you have virtue, core in you, they're like deities have written these things, you know. Like you could spend your whole life looking at these things and listening to the debate go back and forth. And by the time you're done, like you get everything. You get everything because they've ripped it apart from every angle, you know. It's a very nice way to learn. I think debate is really nice. The prisoners really loved it. It also gives you a chance to act a little crazy and still learn something, you know. So it's a very useful thing. We'll take a break. Ready? I'm going to skip one. It's a debate about truth of suffering and Aryas, and you had most of it already. This is a really interesting one that I wanted to go through sort of carefully. It's another place. There are two places where Jetsun Kappa himself uses this quotation. So I thought you might like to hear that. And it happens to be from a secret text. But I'm just going to do a little piece, so it doesn't matter. Kirim tarchin in zorim sewenki par tobashiki tse dela chipasum kanron che gyu machuna. Let's suppose somebody has completed their kirim practice, okay? And in their dzogchen practice, they've got up to Semwen, which is a certain part of higher tantric practice. They didn't do the three activities, which we'll talk about later. Chiwe dusu, but at the moment of their death, they are able to link into the clear light of death, which is ultimate reality. They're able to link into that. He doesn't say directly necessarily, but anyway. Shivetar, then when they die, at the end of the death process, Gyumekur Dangwar, Chao, they should think to themselves, I want to enter an angel's body. I want to enter an angel's body, okay? Pembatang. Pembatang means what? Make that resolution. It's like decide that that's what you want to be. Then she. What? Then die. Okay, Shina. Okay, if you do that, says Jetsun Kappa. This is all secret stuff, but it's okay. Chiwe rimba namusa to chupe rimba chene. Chiwesa to charwa gyurn. Then you will go through the various stages of death. You will enter the clear light of death. And then de tu shenla badu dupe tse. Then, in the next few minutes, in the time that other people would be entering Bardo, like the scary place between death and rebirth, right? Bardo, de de la. Instead of that, de means as a replacement for that. Okay, de de la gilu drup. You will get your rainbow body. You'll get your angel's body. Okay, and I've only brought this quotation up because I want you to be really, really clear that if you can see emptiness directly, it's intimately and automatically, and it can even be suddenly related to becoming an angel. You see, reaching an angel's body. He's talking about higher level of an Arya. Okay, and later on, Jetsun Kappa says, look. Well, I'll give it to you. Then he discusses how that takes place, and he quotes from a scripture called the the activities or something like that. It's a tantric scripture. Somebody asks a question, is it possible, instead of entering the bardo, to become Vajradhara, or Vajrapani, to enter that body? And then he gives a long explanation of why that is possible and why it will happen. And this is Vajradhara talking to an unknown questioner, okay, in this tantra. Then he says, Gyulu Tobna, if you are able then to attain the angel's body, the body of light, it's been stated that Sedela, in that same life, you'll become a Buddha. So like you can't get the miracle body, the rainbow body, and not become a Buddha in the same life. So he's telling you, if you want to get to the rainbow body, especially during the death process, you must see emptiness directly. Like you have to try really hard to see what they call the clear light of death and transform that into a direct perception of emptiness. Okay, and then you can get the rainbow body, and then if you get that, you just become a deity. In that, you become a Buddha in that same life. Di gyulu ma tobla without ngunsum de togna gyulamale. But let's say you don't manage to achieve rainbow body, but you do manage to perceive emptiness directly, clear light directly. Well then, as the UttaraTantra says, Pape chidan gawada nawe dunya tsene pang. Okay, and then he goes through that quotation, same quotation. Leda nyoma wangi ke de la de me chute me. Che, where'd that go? Che techen papa namgi legi wangi chiwa pangbar sung. It is stated in the UttaraTantra that Mahayana Aryas have eliminated having to die through karma and kleshas, okay? Karma and mental afflictions. Dear Lewang ki chiwa mapangshin yoche matsawe teta chepa sumbe kilu matope soso kiwaino. Then he goes through an interesting explanation of why, if you can see directly emptiness and have bodhicitta, then by the way, you avoid all these other problems, like never having enough money or stuff like that, okay? De shiwe oktu kilu topate topate. Let's see if there's anything else here. Oh, and then he says the main point I wanted you to get, that was this whole process about getting an angel body doesn't work unless you can see emptiness directly, just before that. And anybody who says different is wrong. Okay, so he's like saying you gotta, to activate the angel body, you have to see emptiness directly before that. And this particular section, which is from one of his commentaries on Tantra in general, he's saying that if you want to get at death, you want to get the miracle body, rainbow body, you have to try to practice, and this is a practice found in the Vajrayogini, that, Chiwa Chuku Lamkar, okay? Okay. I thought I'd throw in the other place where Jetsun Kappa uses this quotation is from his commentary on Guhya Samaja, which is in the Kagyu tradition, where the Mahamudra comes from, and then leads into a lot of, like, what we're studying in the other class, Samanangdan. Okay? Yang Rinpoche Tobne, if you can achieve the 4th level, Nawasum Nambar Dapar Sung, you'll experience the 3 visions, Chuni Ngunsu Topayen, and you will see emptiness directly. Because the Gyulama says, because the UttaraTantra says, and then he quotes the same quotation. Then he says, I like this one, and this is, I think, on your homework somewhere. As the UttaraTantra says, Che parchingi techen pakpe kyang le wangi chiwa pambar sungna, if it's true, as Lord Maitreya says, that people in the open teachings who see emptiness directly can get out of dying through karma and kleshas, well, ngaki techen pape de pamba tachimut means, needless to say, if you were practicing Tantra, then it'd be no problem, would it? If you saw emptiness directly and had bodhicitta, and we're practicing Tantra on top of that, well, just forget it, And then he just leaves it like that. Okay, I like that quotation. Anyway, then there are a lot of more, I'm going to have in the reading a lot more quotations about how it is that Aryas can have to take birth again. Let me see if I can find one that... Here's a writer, and it's again, it's from our monastery. Changpat nam nyingje da menlangi wangki jitar de suke. Somebody says to him, there's an argument. If these people who see emptiness directly have to take 7 more lifetimes, then what makes them do it? You see? What is there that makes them do that? And there's a debate about it. And he says, I'll give you 2 choices. You know, the other guy. The other guy seems to want to say they must have some kind of kleshas. They got to have some kind of mental afflictions. Otherwise they wouldn't take birth. You know? So that's where we're coming from. Somebody's saying, during those 7 lifetimes, they must have some kind of mental afflictions that are making them take birth. You don't take birth by accident. You know? It's not like you just take birth because of the, what do you call it, the momentum you're on from billions of past lives. I mean, after you've seen emptiness directly, why do you still have to take birth? And our guy gives the other guy 2 choices. He says, the other guy was sort of implying you need to have a mental affliction, right? He says, Champa nam ningje da menlangi wang ki jita du kiemi nupar. Du means any old way they want. Du. Okay? He says, okay, so you're saying that these bodhisattva aryas, they can't just take any kind of birth they want through their compassion and their prayer, munlam, right? Okay, are you telling me that? Is that what you mean to say? And that somehow there's some kind of mental affliction making them do it, right? Okay, that's first choice. Okay, they can't do it by compassion and munlam. There must be some kind of mental affliction at work. That's the first choice I'll give you. Because the other guy said what? There must be some mental affliction involved there. Okay. Then he says, I'll give you another choice. Wente means I'll give you another choice. Nyomo mi shekyang. Whether or not you agree that this is a mental affliction, Chief Poet said, at the time when you go into crossing the borderland between death and rebirth, okay? It's called Chief Poet say, Dakche dok jikbe. Everyone has this fear of losing their whole being, okay? Like the thing that makes you fight when somebody grabs you on a roof and pushes you, you know, or someone goes like that. And that automatic fear, it's what almost like Abhinivesha described in the Yoga Sutra, sometimes that way. Jikpe sakcheki pumbala sepe sepa. Then you get some horrible attachment to this body. And then that throws you into another rebirth. You know, if you have that fear at the last moment, and you're like afraid that if you lose this body, you will disappear. I will disappear. Then that kind of fear is called sepa, gepa sepa in the wheel of life. Attachment, and then that throws you into the next rebirth. So he says, which way you want it? Which way you want it? Okay, he's debating this other guy. He says, which way was it? What was the first choice again? They got some kind of mental affliction, even though, and they can't take rebirth the way they want, through compassion and prayer. Second choice? Whether or not they have a mental affliction, but they have this fear. And that's what throws them into the next rebirth. So, I mean, what we're debating here is like, we're already assuming you saw emptiness. What do you do next? How can you cut those 7 rebirths short? Okay, like we just went through the tantric explanation, right? But now we have this question. This is essential. Suppose you do see emptiness directly. You still want to spend 7 more lifetimes? You know? Maybe you could identify what's throwing you into a rebirth even after you see emptiness. And he says, so here's a debate. And he says, well, there's 2 choices. Either you can't take a rebirth where you want, or whether you call it a mental affliction, and some mental affliction's throwing you, or whether you call it a mental affliction or not, you've got some kind of fear about me, and that throws you into your next, okay? Which way do you want it? The guy might pick the second way. Why?
Because
it gets out of a problem. It gets out of a problem. What? That these bodhisattva aryas who have to take life 7 more times, and he doesn't want to admit that they might be able to do simply through their own compassion. And by the way, the compassion thing is a little, even to me, I don't know if I buy it. Why?
They want to get enlightened faster.
Well, that, and we know he has to take 7 more births. We know he's not a Drachoma. He's not an arhat, right? He's not an arhat. I mean, if you could just see emptiness directly and then immediately take any birth you want, It sounds like an arhat to me. It sounds like a person who's like years and years beyond seeing emptiness directly. So what's the difference? I mean, why do you have to go through the whole path of habituation? Where's that 500 years? Where'd it go? If the guy can just take birth anywhere he wants, then where'd that 500 years go, you know? I mean, I don't know if I buy it, okay? So anyway, he says, then our guy doesn't give the other guy a chance to answer anyway. He says, either way it's wrong, because either way it would contradict statements that these Arya Bodhisattvas have destroyed any being forced to do things through kleshas. So what our guy is saying is, look, whether you call that fear a klesha or not, I call it a klesha. It's a mental affliction, okay? Tetana shenden gyachem botasho. And if your description was right, you know, if a bodhisattva, Arya, had to take rebirth through any kind of mental afflictions, shenden gyachem botasho means forget the idea that he's helping others in a big way. Rangdanyan dupashin madupecher. He can't even do what he wants to do for himself. You know? He can't even do what he wants to do. What are you talking bodhisattva who's acting for all living beings? They can't even keep their own rear end out of samsara, out of some more births. Okay? Now you got to debate that, right? These are all like, they're not all quite matching each other. They're all giving a different angle. I think if you spend like a week or two reading it, you could probably reconcile them all, but I'm not sure. I'm going to skip the next one. Yeah, that's about the same. I'll skip the next one too. Oh, this is a good one. This is by Sarah Jetson. Sarah Jetson is the author of the textbook series from the lower college of Sarah. No, just kidding. Sarah J. Okay. And he was the teacher of the author of our textbooks, Kedrup Dhammadargye. And there's a tradition that according to us, Kedrup Dhammadargye outgrew his teacher, which is almost sort of a little touchy subject, right? And according to the Sarajepas, Kedrup Dhammadargye was sort of a maverick who just kind of wandered away from the party line, which seems to typify Saramay lamas by tradition. But anyway, however way you see it, Kachik, Chansen Papa Koak Lembe Gyur. Somebody says, look, there is a mental affliction that arises in the mind of a bodhisattva Arya, which makes them take rebirth in samsara. There is a mental affliction. Now, that's a kachik, which means what?
The other guy.
The other guy, which means we don't buy it. Okay?
So this is the qualm.
Yeah, it's like the koan, or the quam. Okay. Oh, so you're telling me there's a bodhisattva Arya who is forced to take rebirth out of karma and mental afflictions, right? Sarna? Yerbata. He says, teacher, I didn't say that. Damcha tepitir. But you started out with what you started out with. You said there's a mental affliction which makes him take rebirth, right? And he says, yeah. So he's taking rebirth because he's forced through mental afflictions, right? It's no. Okay. Dumi dute. You can't agree that he's forced to take a rebirth through karma and mental afflictions because this book says something else. Which book? UttaraTantra. Then he throws in this quotation again. I just want you to get the feeling that this quotation has probably been used more than any other quotation from the UttaraTantra because it's so vital, it's so important. Suppose I do see emptiness directly. Well, what's my status? How is it that I get an angel's body? How long will it really take? Okay? Does tantric practice help? And then our guy figured that's enough. He doesn't go on. You know? That's enough. But then he throws in another debate. Konare, which means kachik. Chansen papa korokiro lembe gyurgyupi nyomon chen yoba ta. There is too a mental affliction that makes the guy take birth again. Because he's got a nyun dip. Nyun dip is what? Dippa is an obstacle, okay? Dippa. Dippa. Like we have the capacity to see every living being in the universe. You have the capacity to read my mind at any given time. You know? Whether you are now, I don't know. But everyone has that capacity in this room. And then there's this somewhere block. There's a wall. If you break through that wall, you can do all those things. Like, in principle, you can perceive everything happening in the universe. In principle, anybody in this room, if you saw emptiness directly today, on a bodhisattva path, you would see every living creature in the universe in 1 minute. In 1 minute. But there's some kind of block. You see, there's some kind of wall. And if you can break it down, that's called shedip. Okay? Shedip means, sheje dipa means, it blocks you from the ability to know all things at the same time. Okay? As opposed to a nyundrup, which is a nyomong dipa, which is what? Mental affliction obstacle, which only prevents you from what? Achieving nirvana. Okay? So mental affliction obstacle just means something that keeps you from achieving nirvana, where you don't have to take rebirth again at all, for example. And shedip is what? Prevents you from reaching omniscience. Omniscience. Okay? Okay, so now that you know that, this guy says, there is a mental affliction in the guy's mind that makes him take one of those 7 births, right? Because he's got a mental affliction obstacle. We say, no, he doesn't. And he says, yeah, he does, because he has a omniscience obstacle.
But that's not necessarily...
Right, kyabamachum. Say kyabamachum. Doesn't follow. Doesn't follow. Doesn't necessarily follow. You can have an obstacle to your omniscience, but have gotten over your obstacles to nirvana. Right? I mean, we know that, but he makes a slip, luckily. And then the other guy says, he does too have an omniscience obstacle. And then he says something very powerful. Because he's still at the level where he has the seed for ignorance. He's still at the level where he has the seed for ignorance. Is that a mental affliction? No, we talked about it before today. It's an energy. It's an energy. It's not mental. Okay? Anyway, but the other guy is saying the seed for ignorance is an obstacle to omniscience and not to becoming an arhat. Is that true? The question is, do you get rid of your seeds for your ignorance when you become an arhat?
No, because you're not omniscient.
That's touchy. What kind of ignorance are we talking about? The one that sees that things are self-existent, you get over. That's the last thing you get over, right? And the seeds for it. Or do you get rid of the seeds for it? What do you do between the 8th and 10th bodhisattva levels? Long story. Okay, anyway. He seems to be saying that this seed represents the thing that blocks you from reaching Buddhahood. Omniscience obstacle. Okay, the seed, not the ignorance itself. Ignorance itself is already gone. Okay. Then I chance papa kora kia lembe gyo gibi nyomong yo. Then nyomong giwangi kora kia milen. Therefore, he says, according to me, this guy has a mental affliction that's going to make him take birth again. But he's not taking birth to the power of mental afflictions. It supports me. Supports me. Okay? And then, anyway, the bottom line is that the author from Sarah J. says that, what if we treat the energies in that Bodhisattva Arya's mind as obstacles to omniscience? The energies for ignorance, the seeds for ignorance in that Bodhisattva's mind, what if we treat them as obstacles to omniscience? Okay? Would they still take birth? Rebirth. He's trying to say, let's classify them as something that's not mental affliction, but that still make them take birth. Does that help us with our problems today? What's the UttaraTantra say? He's not going to take birth again because they don't have it, so they don't have it. Meaning what? They don't have mental afflictions and karma, so they're not going to take rebirth. Now, Sarah J. Guy is saying, what if we classify those seeds that make him take birth again as not mental affliction obstacles, but omniscience obstacles? Then is he still taking rebirth?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we know he has to be because he's a seven-timer. He's a seven-timer. And then can we say he doesn't have mental afflictions?
Yes.
Yeah. We got out of it. That's a Sarah J, okay? Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. You got to chew on it. But you get the point. He's saying Uttara Tantra is right, seven lifer is right, taking rebirth is right, being truth of suffering is right, not being samsara is right, not being forced by karma and kleshas to take rebirth is right, but having to take rebirth is right, through something mental affliction sort of thing, which means the obstacle to omniscience, which is the seeds of the ignorance, okay? So now you see how different authors over hundreds of years are shooting guns at each, they're like, how about if we do it this way? Does that, what do you call it? Reconcile all these ideas, okay? So think about it. Think about it. I think it's just a classification trick. Anyway, but not necessarily wrong. I don't know. And there's a couple more from Sarah J, but we don't need those. Just kidding. Here's a little thing I threw in towards the end. I think this is maybe the last thing. Let me check. Yeah, this is the last thing. I just threw this in at the end for fun, okay? This is from a Lam Rim text. It's a commentary to a Lam Rim that was written by the first Panchen Lama, whose name is Losang Chukyi Gyaltsen. And people confuse him with Sarah Jetsun Chukyi Gyaltsen, who's the textbook author from Sarah J. So people say Chukyi Gyaltsen, you have to say, which Chukyi Gyaltsen? And you say Sarah Jetsun Chukyi Gyaltsen. Oh, the Sarah textbook writer. Or they say Panchen Losang Chukyi Gyaltsen. And then it means the Panchen Lama. But anyway, we're talking about Panchen Lama. He wrote a Lam Rim called the Easy Way. Like the short, almost like the easy path. Okay. Delam. I don't know if it's been translated yet. Anybody know? If it hasn't been, I think it'd be cool to do it for the first year of the Tantric series. Because I have a connect. I like Panchen Losang Chukyi Gyaltsen. He was a great writer and a great poet.
So I know Kent's been studying it, but
Yeah.
in Tibetan.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's translated. It's not very long, and it'd be a great Lam Rim for us to do as the first year of the Tantric series. So we'll either do that or the fifth Dalai Lamas. I don't know. Whatever's available by then, or whichever. This one is kind of, to me, I have a connection with it. Anyway, he says, really, if you think about it, people shouldn't get stuck in middle level capacity, meaning what?
Wanting to abandon cyclic existence to end one's suffering.
Yeah, okay. Out of,
Nirvana.
little capacity, medium capacity, big capacity, Lam Rim, right? They call it greater scope, lesser scope, medium scope. Okay, something fancy like that. Rangdunso Dundunyewa Namki Nangne. Of all the people in history who are watching out for their own rear end. Okay, something like that. Nangne Taksha, the best. The very best were Nyentu Choksung. Nyentu Choksung means, who is that? I think it's Shariputra and Modgalyayana. These two great disciples of Lord Buddha. They were great disciples in which turning of the wheel?
The second.
Could be.
Heart Sutra.
Yep.
I guess you could say the Heart Sutra. Yeah, you can say that. But anyway, they're known for having been there at the first one mostly. And they're known as having been Theravadan. Those two guys. Yeah. They're known, I think it's those two. I don't think it's Ananda. I think it's Mogakkipu and Sharipu. Anyway, they're known as being Theravadan usually. He says the best of the people who weren't bodhisattvas yet had to be those two. Okay? They spent their whole lives trying to achieve their own goals. And not only did they not help to achieve others' goals, they didn't get their own. Okay? Like he's putting them down. Okay, in this Lam Rim. Why? They had an opportunity to view the hell realms. Mutok pe tumba zokche ki rangi loba namla chinkur watera la sumbe tse. There was some kind of controversy involving a non-Buddhist teacher and some letter he wrote to his disciples or something. Anyway, ding echa ki tumba la kuro tapo she maga kipu la dungte. As a result of this conversation, Modgalyayana got punched. Okay? Chaksha tamche dambar tar chomne chomwayinla. And he tied up his feet and legs. I'm sorry. He crushed his feet and arms. He crushed his arms and legs like you would a house of reeds. Remember that? And he died. Modgalkipu died. Whereas, if he had been a bodhisattva, and if he had seen the emptiness directly, he never would have had any of these problems. Okay? Because people who see emptiness directly and who are bodhisattvas just don't get these problems. Because UttaraTantra says, all right? So now you see how this quotation is being used by many, many different people. And it's, it's just a short class, not really, but I just want you to get the feeling for how Arya Sangha has infiltrated all of Tibetan Buddhism. You see, from tantric angle, from Lamrim angle, from perfection of wisdom angle, almost anything you read has UttaraTantra in it, whether you know it or not. So here he's using it for a different reason. He's using the quotation for a different reason. Then he says, therefore, if you're going to be a good teacher for other people, get them right into talking about emptiness and karma. Okay? Get them right into talking about emptiness. If you're going to not waste people's time, get them right into emptiness and karma. I like that. And then he quotes Potoa, who's a famous Kadampa, who said the same thing. Okay? Says, don't waste people's time, don't fool around, don't monkey around. Get them straight into karma and emptiness. Get them to Bodhisattva Arya. Right? So that's all I'm going to do on that. I think especially it'd be nice for you to review the statements about the tantric part, and how you can use clear light to achieve the same thing that on a tantric level, tantric path, that someone using the ACI courses would on a sutra class. The courses so far on a sutra path. Okay, so really, the 18 courses that are coming up next fall are for getting to the second kind of Arya. Okay, who can use tantric practices to shorten the time. Okay, to get to the same thing. Okay, we'll stop there. Huh? There is a homework. I'll shoot it to Ellie. I think, by the way, are we doing the thing? The envelopes?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you can stay and do envelopes, help stuff envelopes. We're sending out 750 thank you letters to all the sponsors of the 3-year retreat, with pictures and financial report and a letter of thanks from Winston and Ellie and stuff like that. So, and then if some people want to just wanted to make a dinner, then we could just all have dinner and stuff things at the same time. So, like we could split up like that, and then yeah.
I'd just like to humbly make a request that we need a few people to help continue putting up the yurt so we can get it finished. And I was hoping there'd be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 that would help us after class. So
I promised David I'd go down.
Anybody want to go down there and help? I think they're at the pole stage.
we're at the pole stage. We get the poles up and we can finish it tomorrow.
Okay. Ina?
I'm going down.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we can
Yeah.
so we can tell people who are DMW people we need to have just a 5-minute meeting after class.
So, who people?
People who are at DMW, like just where are we going to park the cars? Everyone's leaving, and they're we just need to logistics.
Okay, so if you're at DMW, and please have a short meeting with Ellie right after this.
Yeah, right after this, just so
Okay.
just for logistics.
They just want to make sure the place is clean before people leave, and then we have the keys to the cars and stuff like that. All right. Then please stay, and then who wants to cook dinner? Anybody want to cook dinner? Like right now? Not me.
We just bought spaghetti and there's spaghetti sauce if you want to make it real simple.
Anybody want to do spaghetti? Anybody?
Noodles or something.
Yeah, Adriana? Okay.
Oh, we have a whole
We have a whole thing of garden burgers. Okay. Then I have to interview like I think 3 more people, and then I leave tomorrow, so I didn't want to. I'm sort of short on time there. Yeah.
I also have an announcement that we do need to have an events committee meeting, which people know about, so we can meet in the side room for a little while after this as well. Maybe
After-
After
Maybe you can
class.
stuff your lips while
That's
you
what I
talk.
was going to say, yeah.
Okay.
We'll try-
So please help out. Please
we'll
stick
try
on.
multitask.
I think it's a very powerful thing to wrap up a thing like a 3-year retreat and like thank the sponsors fully, and it means a lot to the sponsors, I think. Okay. All right. We'll do prayers. Then this class will continue. What's the next one?
I have the calendar upstairs, but
The second, I think it's the second.
I think you're right. August.
August.
Yeah?
My notebook's outside. I think it's
Okay.
August.
Same day of the week, same time.
Yes, that's what it
Same day of the week, same time of the week. And we'll do, is it 3 in August?
I think it was.
Or maybe 4. We added another one.
Did you? Uh-oh.
Sorry, Deb.
Yeah, the 2nd, the 6th,
Oh,
and the
no,
13th.
you're right, yeah.
2nd, the 6th, and the 13th? Okay, 3, and then there'll be 2 more when we get back from His Holiness in September from New York.
24th, I think? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 27th.
There'll be 2 more, and then right after that we go,
The review.
right after that's the real show, okay? And then you guys teach it in Tucson. So I really encourage you during July to keep looking over it, you know. We're going to hit in August, during those 3 classes, we'll hit Rik, Kam, which is what?
Buddha nature.
Buddha nature. It's the guts of the Uttara Tantra. I mean, this is very heavy part of Uttara Tantra, but really the heaviest part is Buddha nature. The main subject in there is Buddha nature. And I thought we would go over some of the views of emptiness held by other schools in Tibet, like specifically Shentong, which is one Kagyu approach to emptiness, which is wrong, but which is useful to study, I think. And I think by the time you get through with that, you'll know more about Shentong than the Shentongists. And that's very useful for being able to talk to people. You know, people get, you know, what do you call it?
Loony?
No, they get like, that comes with it. People say like, I believe in Shentong, you know, and not empty. I don't believe that emptiness is a lack of something. And you're like, well then what is Shentong? And they say, well, I don't know, but I heard, you know, and then, you know, you gotta be able to say, well, what you believe is this, 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 and this, you know, and here's the scriptures of your own. That's what we do in debate. You study Jaebung and Ganden scriptures, you know, and then they start spouting something. You say, oh, you got that from so-and-so, right? And they say, yeah, that's what we believe. I say, yeah, but even according to that scripture, you can't accept it, you know? And then they're like, oh, yeah, you know? And then, I mean, in the monastery, you debate. One very important method is to really learn the system that the other people hold. Like if you're going to be if you say, I hold Madhyamika, you know, I believe in Madhyamika, then you say, well, why don't you believe in mind only? And they say, well, because mind only is lower than Madhyamika, you know? And you say, well, why? You know, and they say, well, I don't know, but I hold Madhyamika, you know? And then if you're really going to be a good Madhyamikan, you got to know mind only well, you know? And you say, well, here's why mind only, here's the points on which mind only differs from Madhyamika, you know? So what I thought to do is we'll do a similar thing as we did today on Shentong, from many different scriptures, and we'll throw in Shentong from some of the classic Kagyu sources that present it. And then we'll just thrash it out, you know, we'll thrash it out. We'll see both sides like that. And then that carries over into Buddha nature. That idea of emptiness is responsible for their view on Buddha nature, which we've read in Samonangden. We're studying a very beautiful scripture by one of the early Karmapas, which is very good and powerful. But I thought we'd throw that in there also. And you can get, from the horse's mouth, you can get this idea about Buddha nature that we don't agree with, but which is a very beautiful presentation, and most importantly, what? No, useful. It's useful. It's useful. Like, you got to have all these tools in your toolbox, you know. There might come a day when you run into a student who's just got to hear that one, you know, and you teach it to them, you know. You don't mention the real idea of emptiness. You go straight to, oh yeah, there is a little Buddha inside of you. And, you know, like I was at the prison yesterday, and you just see the level of the people that are there, and then you have to shift. You have to do tange immediately. And so you got to have in your toolbox everybody's idea about emptiness. And it's funny, you know, you might, like I'm going to a yoga center, this big yoga center, you know, and so I presented Yoga Sutra way, or I presented Hatha Yoga Pradipika way, or I don't jump right into Nagarjuna or Chandrakirti, because they don't believe in that. So you learn Yoga Sutra well, you learn Hatha Yoga Pradipika well, and then you present it that way. And then you, when they grasp it, then you bring them up, right? That was the point of the UttaraTantra itself, right? The first 3 books were what? Mine only. But he said that you had to have them for certain people to get them up to Madhyamika. So we'll do everybody's idea about emptiness and Buddha nature. And then you'll be well loaded by the time of October. But you got to look over this stuff now. Also, I'll send readings to LA after my vacation, but before I get back. So, you know, you'll have those. Okay? Yeah?
Can you email them, I guess?
Yeah, you can email them, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We love you very much. On behalf of everyone, your teachings are amazing. And, please come back.
Oh, yeah.
Continue teaching.
No, I'd much rather be here than anywhere else. I mean, this is the place I'm at the place in my life, and I think those of you who are over 40, you should start thinking that way too, where, you know, you gotta be in a place where you can do long, deep retreats and concentrate. So I'm happy. I think that's the right place to be right now. Okay?